So we're going to be starting going through the 2009 SATS paper now. So how we're going to do this, I'm looking for the midpoints of lines. So my first instinct needs to be to find this coordinate here. The coordinates of this point would be, well, it's in line with this point here. So its x coordinate is 30 and it's horizontally in line with this point here. So its y coordinate is 0. So this point P is going to have x coordinate of 30 and y coordinate in between 0 and 70, that is 35. The point Q is in between 30, 0 and 54, 0, so it's going to have y coordinate 0, and it's going to have point in between 54 and 30, that is 42. Now R, if you look, is in line with P and Q, so it's got the same y coordinate as P, it's got the same x coordinate as Q, so that gives me 42, 35. Moving on, we are looking for, we've got a table, we've got a bunch of data, and we're asked to see which one has more rainfall on average. Now, all I need to see is which one has more rainfall. So for place A, it had 8 groups of 10, and it also has 4 months of 20. Okay, so 8 months of 10, 4 months of 20. 8 times 10 is 80, 4 times 20 is 80, adding that together gets you 160. Same idea for B, it has 10 months of 5 centimetres of rain, and it has 2 months of 50 centimetres of rain. 10 times 5 is 50, 2 times 50 is 100, 50 plus 100 is 150. So, which one has more rain? Well, this place A had 160, place B had 150, so place A has more rain. I'll quickly go back to that. Right, this is all a lot of text that is just demonstrating what's going on. Okay, this is what we need, just this sentence here. Here are the formula to work out the thinking distance and braking distance for a car travelling at v miles per hour. The thinking distance is v feet, so notice how these are the same. And the braking distance is v squared divided by 20. Okay, so it's travelling at 70 miles per hour. Its thinking distance, whether it's 70 miles per hour, v is 70, so it's going to be 70 feet. Its braking distance is going to be given by, well, I'm going to substitute in v for 70, so 70 squared divided by 20. Typing that onto my calculator gets me 245 feet. So in total, adding those together, is 315 feet. This next idea is the same thing, except we're giving the braking distance. So I know this formula here is the one for braking distance, v squared divided by 20, and I know that is 125 feet. So I'm going to times both sides by 20 to get that v squared is equal to 125 times 20, 2,500. And then v is equal to, I'm going to square root 2,500, and that gets me 50 miles per hour. Shape A and B are made from 5 identical squares. The perimeter of shape A is 72. We'll work out the perimeter of shape B. So what I'm going to think is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 sides. So I'm doing 72 divided by 12 to figure out how long each single rectangle is. And 72 divided by 12 is 6 centimeters. Okay. So each one square is 6 centimeters, so 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48, 54, and 60 centimeters, or you could do 10 times 6 because there's 10 edges, and that gets you 60 centimeters. Alright. In 1 year, 2 million tons of glass bottles and jars were thrown away in the UK. 38% of these bottles were recycled. How many tons of bottles and jars were recycled? So I'm going to do 2 million. And I'm trying to find 38%. 38% as a multiplier is 0.38. So I'm timesing it by 0.38. 2 million times 0.38 is 760,000, or 760,000. For this question, why is that? It's quite straightforward. Angles in triangle add up to 180. degrees. Since all the sides are the same, because it's an equilateral triangle, this implies that all the angles are the same. All the angles are the same. Are the same. And 180 divided by 3 is equal to 60 degrees. So all the angles in a triangle add up to 180. Since all sides are the same, that must mean all the angles are the same. And 180 degrees divided by 3 is 60. Okay. For this one, I recommend splitting it into shapes. Split it into triangles like this. Okay, each of these is an equilateral triangle. So A is 60 degrees. B is made up of 1 and 2 of these. So that is 2 60s, which is 120. And C is made up of 1, 2, 3, and 4 of these corners. So 4 times 60 is 240 degrees. Moving on. Right. What I'd recommend, we're looking for the number of counters, or the probability of counters of blue. So this is 5 over 11. This one is 4 over 10, which can be simplified to 2 over 5. This one is 3 out of 9, which is 1/3. And this one is 2 over 8, which is 1/4. So now I know that B is going to 5 over 11. C is going to 2 over 5. D is going to 1/3. And E is going to 1/4. Right, bit of a tricky one, this one. So, pupils are asked if they own a bicycle. 3/8 said yes, 5/8 said no, and 46 more people said no than yes. So what you need to think, okay, how do you get from 3/8 to 2/8? And that's plus 2/8. So that extra 2/8 of the people of X, this being the total number of people, was worth 46 people, because there was an extra 2/8 and there was an extra 46. Okay, so 2/8 of X is 46, and now you can either think, how do I turn this whole? You times by 4, so X, or you can do X is 46 times 8 divided by 2 as well. Sorry, that's strange looking 6. 46 times 8 divided by 2. Typing all that in your calculator, you get 184. Don't be afraid to use your calculator on a calculator paper. Speaking of using your calculator on a paper, this one is very straightforward. You're given this formula and you're told what y is. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to say mass is equal to pi times, notice how I include a time sign, because I can't just write pi and then a number, that's not mathematically correct. So I do pi times 5.5 cubed, all divided by 10. Then, at the end, I times by 1.15. And I'm going to type this exactly how it looks here into my calculator. Okay, when I do that, so pi times 5.5 cubed, all divided by 10, times 1.15, it gets me 60.10848494. Since it's between 53 and 63, then it must be a medium egg. Just type this into your calculator, you should get that. Alright, circumference of a ring. Well, the formula for circumference, we have two. We have circumference is pi times diameter, or we have circumference is 2 pi times the radius. Since we're given the diameter, I'm going to use that formula, so I'm going to ignore that one. So for a size 8 ring, I'm going to do pi times the diameter being 18.2. So I do pi times 18.2, and that gets me 51.176983. It doesn't specify any kind of rounding, so you don't have to. I always round to 3 significant figures or 1 decimal place, so 51.2 millimeters. Right, same idea here. Rachel wants to buy a ring for her middle finger. The finger has circumference 51 millimeters. So I'm once again using the circumference formula, and I'm going to relate it to the diameter because everything's in diameters. Now I want to figure out the diameter. So diameter would be the circumference divided by pi. Okay? Or in this case, 51 divided by pi. Typing that into my calculator, 51 divided by pi gets me 16.2 38042, but it needs to be bigger. You're not going to be able to fit your finger in a ring if it's smaller diameter than your finger is. So we need it to be bigger than that, in which case it needs to be the size 6 ring, because that is bigger. The size 5 would be too small. You needed to justify why you couldn't have a size 5 as well. You couldn't just say size 6 would fit, because technically like the size 9 would also fit. Why aren't you going for a size 9? Alright, a lot of people try to do index laws on this question. Index laws don't work. First of all, we have adding, so we can't use index laws. Second of all, the bases aren't the same, so we can't use index laws. So there's literally no way to do index laws. So all I'm going to do is 3 to the power of 5 plus 10 squared. Well, 3 to the power of 5 is 243. 10 squared is 100. Adding those together, we get 343. That gets you 1 mark. And now you're doing 7 to the power of what gets you 343. And at this point, you can just try numbers. And it's 7 cubed gets you 343. So therefore, x, the power, the number at the top, was 3. Right. Table shows the number of schools in pupil in England. Show that on average a secondary school has 4 times as many pupils as primary school. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to work out how many kids are in each primary school and how many kids are in each secondary. So for primary, I do 4069385, so the number of kids, divided by the number of schools, 17642. So 4069385 divided by 17642. That gets me 230, let's say 231. Okay, 230.66, but we'll say 231, it doesn't matter that much. For secondary, I'm going to do the same idea. I'm going to do the number of students, 3315805, divided by the number of schools, 3385. Typing all that into my calculator, 3315805 divided by 3385, and that gets me 979, or 980, let's round it to. So this is the number of students in each primary school, this is the number of students in each secondary school, so now I'm going to do 980 divided by 231, which is 4.24, so roughly 4 times the amount. Okay, you can't just kind of assume that examiners are going to know that this is 4 times this. You have to show it by doing this number divided by this is close to 4. Okay. Alright. Cuboid container below holds 12 litres of water when full. 1 litre is 1,000 centimetres cubed. So my first instinct is to figure out how many centimetres cubed 12 litres is by doing 12 times 1,000. And that's going to get me 12,000 centimetres cubed. So I know that this box here is 12,000 centimetres cubed. And next what I need to think is, how do I actually find the volume? Well, you do the height times the length times the width, or in this case, I don't know what the height is, but I know that the length is 40 and the width are 20. So 800 times height, 40 times 20 is 800, is 12,000. So the height is 12,000 divided by 800, which is 15 centimeters, which makes sense. Like, just, I know it says not drawn accurately, but kind of just looking at that, this looks like the shortest, but it's not a lot shorter than that. Okay, you can't always rely on diagrams, but sometimes they will help you. Alright, bit of a tricky one, this one. What I would recommend is, we're given a sequence 5, 16, 27, and those are the first 3 terms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw myself a little table. Okay, and I'm going to write n is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and we're given these sequences. N plus 11. Well, if n is, for the first term, I'm looking for the number 5. If n is 1, 1 plus 11 is 12. Well, that doesn't work, so I know that row can't be correct. Okay, so I know automatically that is wrong. Okay, for 11n minus 6, when n is 1, 11 times 1 is 11, take away 6 is 5. Okay, good. I'm going to check the next term. When n is 2, 11 times 2 is 22. 22 takes 6 is 16. Good, that works. Okay, and when n is 3, 11 times 3 is 33. 33 takes 6 is 27. So now I'm going to do when n is 4, 11 times 4 is 44. 44 takes 6 is 38. So yes, that one works. And the fourth number would be 38. Now for n squared times 6 take away n. Right, n is 1, so I'm doing 1 squared times 6 take away n. So 1 squared times 6 take away 1. 1 squared is 1, 6 take away 1 is 5, 1 times 5 is 5. Okay, for n is 2, I'm doing 2 squared times 6 take away 2. 2 squared is 4, 6 take away 2 is 4, 4 times 4 is 16. For n being 3, 3 squared is 9, 6 take away 3 is 3, 9 times 3 is 27. So yep, that works. So I can now say this works. Now I just have to figure out the next term. When n is 4, 4 squared is 16, 6 take away 2, 6 take away 4 is when n is 4, 4 squared is 16, 6 take away 4 is 2, 16 times 2 is 32. So this here is 32. Okay, so just to quickly write down what I did for that final one is I did 4 squared times 6 minus 4. I'm just replacing n with the number 4 because I'm looking for the fourth term, in which case 16 times 2, well, that's 32. Okay. Alright, we've looked at a lot of problems like these, so I'm going to go quite quick. Mean is total divided by amount. Right, so far he's taken 5 units and the mean mark is 78, so I'm going to do 78 times 5 to figure out how many marks he's got in total so far. 78 times 5 is 390. Okay, if he wants a mean mark of at least 80, then for all 6 units I'm doing 80 times 6, and that gets me 480. So in the next exam he's got to get from here to here, that's another 90 marks. So he needs 90 marks in his next exam to get from his 78% to his 80% after 6 papers. Okay, we have the line y equals x. There's 2 ways of thinking about this. 1, you can do rearranging, that's what I'm going to do. 2, you can substitute points in. So when you have y equals x, you can say y take away x is 0. By subtracting x from both sides, you could have 0 is x take away y. By subtracting y from both sides, you could say y divided by x is 1 by dividing both sides by x, or you could say 1 is x divided by y. These two have some little special cases to think about. If you can tell me what those are, that would be great. And yeah, obviously we also have x is equal to y, if y is equal to x, x is equal to y. So the only two that I can see are these two here. So 1 and 2. Okay, x plus y equals 0 doesn't work. Think about the point here, 2, 2. 2 plus 2 is equal to 0, that's not true. 2 is not equal to minus 2, that doesn't work. And 2 times 2 is not equal to 0. Okay. Write the coordinates of 2 points that have an x coordinate, 1 less than the y coordinate. Should be an easy 100% this. So let's just choose a point. Let's choose a point in 2. Its x coordinate is 1 less than the y coordinate, so its x coordinate is 2, its y coordinate is 3. If you want to do it, think about it the other way. Start with the y coordinate of 5, and then its x coordinate is 1 less, which is 4. Right. What would be the equation in the straight line? Now this is worth 1 mark, and it's for both of these parts. So yes, I could go about finding the gradient. I could go about finding the y-intercept. I could even draw it over here. But frankly, that sounds like too much effort for this. So what I'm going to think is a equation of a straight line is literally just a relationship between points. And this relationship is y is equal to x, but I'm adding 1 on each time, because if I know that x is 1 less than y, y is 1 more than x, so I do y is x plus 1. Okay. For percentages, there is one formula you need to know. The original times the multiplier is the new. Okay, this is something you need to know. So, for this one, I have the original, I have the multiplier, I need to find the new. So an increase of 25% is multiplier is 1.25. So all I'm going to do is 60,000 times 1.25, the original times the multiplier. Typing that into my calculator gets me 75,000. Okay. That enough zeros? Yes. Right, for this one, I don't have the multiplier, but I have the original and I have the new. So now I'm going to do, to find the multiplier, I'm going to do the new divided by the original, 80,000 divided by 60,000, and that is 1.3 recurring, okay, or 133.333, so on and so forth, percent. Now you're asking yourself, how far away from 100% is this? Because how far have you increased 100% by? You have increased 100% by 33.3%. Okay. You are allowed to round this just to 33, but you cannot round it to 30. Same idea over here, except I'm given the new, I'm given the multiplier, but I am not given the original. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the new divided by the multiplier. Now note, it's still a 25% increase, so the multiplier is still 1.25, regardless of if you're going backwards in time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the new amount, 80,000, and I'm going to divide it by the original amount, 1.25. 80,000 divided by 1.25 gets me 64,000. Okay, because what this is saying is if I increase 64,000 by 25%, I will end up at 80,000. Okay, this one, nice and easy. We're looking for two numbers at times to give 5, so that's 2 and 2.5 obviously. You have to choose them. And now you're just thinking, okay, index laws, since we're multiplying, I'm going to add the powers. So which powers add to give 16, and that's 10 to the 8 and 10 to the 8. 8 plus 8 is 16. Alright, quite a nice question, this one. The way I would recommend it is just choosing a number and seeing what happens. And the easiest number I can think of is just let C be 0. So 0 plus 3 is equal to something take away 4, well 7 take away 4. So how much bigger was this? Well, D was the bigger number, first of all, because 7's bigger than 0. How much bigger? It's bigger by 7. Okay, same idea here. 3 take away 0, let E be 0, why not? Is equal to 4 take away 1. So once again, F is the bigger number, because F is 1, because this negative sign isn't part of the F. Okay, this isn't negative 1, it's take away 1. 1 is still positive. Okay, so F is bigger, and it's bigger by 1. If you want to do it algebraically, you could do something like C is equal to D take away 7. You subtract 3 from both sides, and therefore D is bigger by 7 because you have to take 7 away from it to get to C. Or similarly over here, what I would recommend doing is saying that I would probably times both sides by -1 to get that E take away 3 is equal to F take away 4. That works, just times in both sides by -1, and then E is equal to F minus 1, and then using the same idea as over here, we can take that away. Alright, so to the nearest 1,000, how many 3-year-old children were there in England? Well, we're told that 546,400, or 98%, so these are the same thing, okay? So 98% of all 3-year-old children go to that. So this once again is, I'm going to do 546,400 divided by 0.98 to figure out how many children there originally was. This works based off this idea over here. Once again, we're given the multiplier, 0.98. We're given the new amount after the multiplier. I'm trying to work out how many people there were before the multiplier. Typing this all into my calculator, 546,400 divided by 0.98 gets me this kind of disgusting decimal, 557,551.0204, and now I'm rounding this to the nearest whole, to the nearest 1,000. This to the nearest 1,000 is 558,000. I've rounded up because this is a 5. Right, we have not studied this, but that is fine. I'll quickly cover it in case anyone has kind of looked at it or is a bit confused. So there's something called SOT, Ka, Toa. Okay. O is opposite, so it's opposite the angle. H is the hypotenuse, that's opposite the right angle or the longest side, and A is adjacent, so it's the one opposite the angle we have. The angle we have is this 25 degrees. So since I've got the opposite, or I'm looking for the opposite from this 25 degrees, I'm given the hypotenuse, then I'm going to use SO part of it, because I don't care about the adjacent in either of these. So now that what that tells me is I'm going to do sine of 25 is equal to h, in this case our height is called h. It's annoying that we use the same letter for height, the height and hypotenuse, but what can you do? Divided by 17. So in my calculator I'm going to type 17 times sine of 25, and that gets me 7.18 centimeters. Don't worry if you didn't get that. Obviously, we've not studied it yet. That's why I'm giving it to you. I want you to get used to seeing problems that you're not necessarily going to be able to complete. That's part of the exam process. We need to get used to that idea. Alright. For this one, I want to get 87 to 100 as 100 to something. Okay. Now, you can't just add 13 with ratios. We can never add or subtract. We can only multiply and divide. Okay, unless like the situation changes. In this case, the situation's not changed, so I can only multiply or divide. In which case, first I'm going to divide by 87 to turn this into 1. So that turns into 1. And 100 divided by 87, I'm just going to write as 100 divided by 87. Why not? And then to turn this into 100, I times it by 100, so I'm going to times this by 100. Now I can just type all of this into my calculator. 100 over 87, all times by 100, gets me 114.9425287. Last time I checked, you can't have 0.9425287 of a woman, so we're going to round it to the nearest integer, as it says in the question, 115, integer being whole number. If you're not sure, just think, can I have 0.9 of a woman? Probably not, let's just round it. Okay. Alright, another question we've not done, though fair enough if you gave it a go. So this is the lowest in the data set. Okay, so the smallest number in the data set. This is what we call the lower quartile, which is like the lowest 25%. So this person here is 25%. This is the median, so this is halfway. This is the upper quartile, which is 75% of the way through the data. And this is the most. This is the highest, okay, the biggest. So the median number of petals, which is here, well, each little square is worth 2. So 30, 32. Okay, plus 2 to get 32. This one here, well, this is worth 37. This is 30, 37. Take 30 is 7. And finally, what percentage of the daisies has fewer than 30 petals? Well, 30 petals is our lower quartile. Our lower quartile is 25%, so 25% have fewer than 30 petals. Once again, don't worry if you didn't get that, we have not covered that. Okay, moving on swiftly. I think this is when people start running out of time, because actually this is quite a nice question. It tells us to use Pythagoras' theorem, so I'm looking for a right angle triangle. The right angle triangle I can see is this one. We're looking for this length here. Given that this is 20, how I'm going to find that is I'm going to do square root of 22 squared minus 20, and that gets me 22 squared minus 20 square rooted. Sorry, 20 squared, obviously. Let's fix that. 2 root 21. Okay, or 9.164 5. I'm going to leave it as 2 root 21 because that's a bit nicer to work with. So this length from here to here is going to be this entire 30, subtract this section here, which is 2 root 21. So k is equal to 30, subtract 2 root 21. Putting that into my calculator, and this I will put as a decimal is 20.83484861. The reason I didn't write this down is in case I rounded it, and then if I round here, it's going to change my answer here. So I don't want to round it too early, but now I can round it to 20.8. Right, this one's a bit tricky. So, first things first. Let's read the question. A booklet is made of 6 rectangular pieces of paper. Each piece of paper measures 297 millimeters by 420 millimeters. The mass of the paper is 80 grams per meter squared. Instantly alarm bells are ringing for me because this is meters squared and this is millimeters. The units are different. Okay, and I want to calculate the mass of the booklet. So what I need to either do is I need to turn meters squared into millimeters squared, or I need to turn these millimeters into meters. I think it's probably easier to turn millimeters into meters than meters squared into millimeters squared. And how I do that, 297 millimeters is equal to, I'm going to divide it by 1000. Okay, if you want to turn it into centimeters, divide dividing by 10, and then centimeters into meters, dividing by 100. Fair enough, but I'm just going to go straight into 1000. 0.297 meters, and 420 millimeters is 0.420 meters. Obviously, I don't need that 0 at the end, so let's get rid of it. So the area of one page is going to be 0.297 times 0.42. 0.297 times 0.42. 0.12474. Now, we have 6 pages, meters squared. 6 pages is going to be 6 times that, 6 times 0.12474. That gets me 0.74844. And now each page is 80 grams, so I can times this by 80 to do mass is 0.74844 times by 80, and that gets me 59.8752. To 2 significant figures, so second significant figure is 9, what's after it is an 8, so that goes to 60 grams. Okay, 60 grams. So I turned millimeters into meters, found the area of one page, so the area of 6 pages, and therefore the mass of 6 pages. Okay, final question then on the paper is this one. This one's a bit tricky. I think it's quite easy to get 1 mark. If the volume originally was 4/3 pi r cubed, okay, then the volume of the new one's going to be a half of that. So I'm doing a half of 4/3 pi r cubed, which is, well, this 2 cancels with that 4 and turns that into a 2. 2/3 pi r cubed. Okay. So that's for volume. I think that one's quite easy. You just divide it by 2, this 4 by 2 to get a mark. Now the surface area is a bit hard, because you might be tempted to divide the surface area by 2 as well, because we've got half of it, but don't forget you actually have this new face on the top that we didn't originally have. Okay, so dividing it by 2 gives me this curved area on the outside, so curved area is going to be 2 pi r squared, just because it's this divided by 2. Now the flat face, well, that is just a circle, so that's the area of a circle is given by pi r squared. So in total, it's going to be 2 pi r squared, the curved surface area, plus the flat surface area, and that gets me 3 pi r squared. 2 pi r squared plus pi r squared is 3 pi r squared. Okay, hopefully you're able to correct all that. Please let me know if you have any more problems, either in lesson or homework club on a Tuesday evening. Perfect, thank you.